My name is Joe. I am a single engine flight instructor. If this is your first time here, welcome to the channel. If it's not, welcome back. So today we're going to talk about emergencies. What an emergency looks like and when you should declare an emergency. So let's get into it. All right, so we're going to start off with a really quick story of something I've seen recently out in the field between a student and another instructor. This actually happened this year, a little bit earlier this year. I wanted to hold off on making this video because I didn't want anybody to really figure out who it was and who was involved in everything with it. So a commercial student, well, two commercial students actually, were time building. So they departed a runway, and on their climb out, their oil pressure dropped to 0. Immediately after that happening, the motor got loud, started sputtering on them, they started having all kinds of issues. So what did they do? They did exactly what they were supposed to do. They declared an emergency. They called Mayday over the radio, let tower know that they were coming back to the field, what was going on. They gave all the information that the tower asked of them, and they limped the plane through the pattern, back around, and safely and successfully landed the airplane and taxied it back to the parking area. As far as what actually happened with the airplane, I haven't been able to find out exactly what the issue was, but it was everything after that is what kind of sparked me to kind of put this video in the bank to be made. So they got back and they were talking to their CFI afterwards. And I heard something that absolutely blew my mind. They were explaining the situation to the CFI. I just happened to be there. And the CFI looked at them, dead serious, and said, if the propeller doesn't stop spinning, you don't have an emergency. Wow. I couldn't believe that when I heard it. He was dead serious. If the propeller is still spinning, you don't have an emergency, according to that flight instructor. That is wrong on so many levels. And the fact that he would say this to a student, well, two students, I mean, yes, they're already pilots, but they're commercial students. But the fact that he would actually say this to someone just blew my mind. It couldn't be more wrong. And then he made them sit down and write detailed reports about what happened and what they did and why they made the decisions that they made. And let me be clear here. There was no accident. There was no damage. The FAA was not involved because of that. NTSB was not involved because of that. They didn't need to fill out a NASA form, but yet their instructor told them that and then made them go and do all of that stuff. So when their instructor walked away, they looked at me and they said, "Are you a CFI?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And they said, "Is that right, that it's only an emergency if the propeller stops spinning?" I said, 100% no. Yes, it is a full-blown emergency if your propeller stops spinning. Do what you did. But there are many other emergencies that you can have where you would declare an emergency. So let's kind of dig into that a little bit today, because I want to get past this, because a school I trained at kind of had the same mentality. And it was one of those things like, you don't ever call Mayday, you don't ever declare an emergency unless your propeller stops spinning, and they kind of, and a lot of schools will push this on you. I don't really understand why. I think it's maybe because they don't want to have like a reputation and radio traffic out there of people calling emergencies with their airplanes, because they don't want to be viewed as maybe not having the best maintenance program. But let's be honest, these are piston airplanes. Even if you have the best maintenance out there, Murphy's Law still happens. Things are going to break. It's part of it. Things break on airliners all the time. I mean, just go out there and look at how many airliners have to divert or have to go back because, you know, an engine fails on takeoff or anything like that. Like, it happens. It's a machine. Things break. So that's the only reason I can think of why schools and instructors and stuff push this don't declare an emergency unless the propeller stops spinning stuff, is because maybe they don't want to look bad. Maybe they don't want to have to do a report. I don't really know. But I wanted to make this video today to tell you that no matter what is going on in that airplane, things are breaking, things are malfunctioning, stuff like that. If you are uncomfortable and the task load is getting too much, declare the emergency. The moment you declare an emergency on that radio, you're going to have like 3 people in that tower that are dedicated to just you and helping you get back on the ground safely. Like, that is their only job at that moment, is to clear airspace for you to help you get on the ground. Now, don't go up there and be like, oh, well, you know what, I broke a nail, or I don't know, I sneezed and my headset fell off. Don't declare an emergency for that stuff. I mean, use good ADM. Hopefully, wherever you are within your training, even if you are a student pilot, you should be being taught ADM, aeronautical decision making. So you have to make a good decision. So let's use an example. You could take off and you have an alternator failure. Well, depending on your plane, you either have 1 battery or 2, and roughly you figure 15 to 30 minutes per battery. Do you need to declare an emergency under that? Probably not, especially if you're still right there in the pattern. Then just let the tower know, say, hey, I had an alternator failure. I need to run the pattern, come back around and land. It's not that big of a deal. But to some people, it might be. That might be the worst thing that's ever happened to them in an airplane. And if you are uncomfortable, call and ask for the emergency or declare the emergency. You're not going to get in any trouble. I guarantee you when the fire department comes out there, they're not going to be mad at you if you land the plane safely. They will be very happy that you landed that plane safely. And they're grateful for the runs to be able to come out and get the practice and get ready for stuff like that too. So don't ever feel bad to declare that emergency. And still, like, let's talk about that alternator failure a little bit more. Well, let's say you're not in the pattern and you have the alternator failure. You're going from point A to point B. Well, you know you have enough time to get there, but then, well, maybe your screens start shutting down because you're really starting to run out of battery and stuff like that. Well, at that point, you need to declare the emergency. You need to get on the ground right away. So that's all I really want to talk about in this video today, is and kind of get that point across, that don't be afraid to declare that emergency. I don't care what anybody tells you. Yes, if the propeller stops spinning, that's a bad time. That's a very bad time. You better declare an emergency for that one. You better find somewhere to land that airplane. But there are other emergencies that you can declare for also. And I want you to be comfortable getting on that radio and asking for help if you ever need it. That's what ATC is there for. That is what their job is. Their job is to clear airspace, kind of make sure everybody is safe up there, and then to help you when you need it most. So that's all I have for the video for this week. I just wanted to hammer that point home. So if you like this video, check out this other one on the channel, and I'll see you next time.